Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for the 2 days you've spent with us. We have gone through what I would say is the learning and the expanding of mind, expanding of knowledge part of the seminar. And now we wind down with some very, very important items on the agenda. What I will be discussing with you and sort of initiating with you now is Manish had kicked off the seminar yesterday, telling you about this new property that we had brought in called Jedi at Work, which is powered by Datamatics. This is the first ever hackathon run by the MRSI. And this was, as you know, kicked off with 17 teams, and they were given a task, a problem to solve and to come back with their solutions 24 hours later. The brief given to them is that the hackathon was to get forth innovative, unorthodox solutions to insight problems. And I think we've been through a very interesting journey. I've just been in and out of the discussions with the jury, where I think we have realized that the Indian market research fraternity is more than ready to take up such challenges. The first one has gone off really, really well. And we really expect this to be one of our key properties going forward. You can look forward to many, many more such hackathons in the years to come. And we will keep the Jedi in the market research industry at work. We had an illustrious jury who were looking at the results. They started with 17 teams, and you can imagine how long it took to evaluate them. I think it took between 7 to 8 hours of jury work. That is 7 multiplied by 5 jury members plus another 2 supporters. And that's how many man-hours have gone behind this. We had BV Pradeep on the jury, ex-Global Insights VP Unilever. We had Sundar Muthuraman, ex-head of Kanta Analytics, AP. We had Arindam Som, currently with brand Eigen Insights. And we had Pradeep Hejmadi, CMO Hathway Cables, and Manoj Davne, CEO and founder of Vision Digital Analytics. These were our 5 core jury members who were evaluating the 17 teams. And they were supported by Manish Makhijani and Sandeep Arora from the MRSI and myself. So with much deliberation, we have brought down the 17 teams to the 3 finalists. And I think as always, it was a difficult decision. The 3 who do not present to you in the next slot are, the 14 who do not present to you in the next slot really sort of missed by a very, very small margin. I think there was innovative thinking and great work that we got from each and every one of them. However, I now hand over to you so you can see for yourself what happens when you throw a problem at a team of 3 teams of bright market researchers, and this is what they come back with. Over to the first team from the hackathon who will present.
Okay, so we have what we had suggested as we're currently calling the system for retail measurement solution, and this is from the team STIR, which is what we had called our team. It was actually a combination of 2 companies coming together. One was, of course, Karvi Insights, which I hope most of you are familiar with. We look at any new innovation as an inherent life force, or key, as we call ourselves, to facilitate growth. And DeepMinds was our partner on this. DeepMinds is a new age startup that envisions tech-led relationships where physical solutions have a limitation. And we, of course, looked at both of those companies coming together. The challenge was a very interesting one. Having been at Nielsen, we fully understand the value of the Nielsen retail audit. And we were quite stumped, as we told the jury this morning when we started thinking about it. But we did decide to focus only on the general trade because we believe there are solutions which exist for the modern trade format and the e-com space. So our proposed solution, which is in keeping with the philosophy of our team named STIR, which they stood for Simple Technology for Increasing Retail Reach, was an amalgamation of NLP and imaging. We proposed an NLP-based solution which also has advanced imaging capabilities and our specialized and proprietary FMCG tech model, which can help ensure an engaging and effortless journey with something called Help Setu, a very flexible, extendable, and scalable model. Of course, we combined it with tried and tested solution for imaging, which we have used. And that has about 92% accuracy. The technology overview, I'll be upfront that we have held back some minor pieces of information on this. So please bear with me if you don't understand the full model, but we've tried to keep as much of the detail as possible. It's an advanced NLP model with imaging using algorithms. There is a contextual analysis which will be done to deal with the input and the output and the intended action required therefore. Proprietary domain-specific model training and of course master updation through images is a basic requirement. AI and ML will be there for the time efficiency to be built in, the scalability and the versatility of the platform. There is going to be a cross-validation and harmonization between the data derived from multiple resources for increasing the reliability and the robustness of the data. And interestingly, it is a serverless architecture with no downloads required. This ensures scalability and the ability to handle what we call rush hour without compromising on the user experience. So the result is a very smooth, personalized, easy and friendly interface to engage with, and all the tech is hidden behind. In terms of the process flow, it still is based on empanelment of the retailer and some amount of training on the system, which may be multiple people. And as we recognize the working the grocery store, about 1 to 2 people in every shop. We will be capturing initial photos of the shop shelves during the onboarding, and there would be monthly or fortnightly updates by the retailer. The image data will be used to understand the categories, brands, and SKUs not stocked, and also to identify the out of stock. The retailer would be interacting with the customers while the inputs of the order is captured real time, and the system captures the details of the consumer bills. The retailer can do both kacha and formal bills in this system, and the loop repeats for every customer. So the conversion and AI gives a daily, and interestingly, daily output of sales by SKU, and you get both depth and width, and it can be rolled up by pin code. There is also a query capability where brands and SKUs which are not sold in the month can be queried through the retailer to ask him whether he stocks it or he doesn't and get a confirmation. And there is assistance to help increase the engagement and the practice of the tech-enabled tracking. The functionality covers both personal and functional support. The store classification, as in all cases, would be based on triangulation. There would be a sampling, of course, based on a mini census post the POC for projections. So we have kept that in mind as well. And I won't get into the details of the sampling right now. And what to expect is a daily reporting of the sales and the width and depth, a fortnightly reporting of out of stock, and a monthly reporting of market share. This is via a Power BI dashboard. About 5 months expected for the POC, and reporting to start from the end of the second month. And I guess for Unilever's convenience, I've kept the investments as X to Y, depending on the design. Thank you.
Time for the second team to come along. So let me bring on Team Nielsen IQ for their presentation. Do we have you guys? Okay, I see a Sitwa Chopra. Okay, the team is joining along. So guys, you have 10 minutes for your presentation. Take your time, 10 minutes. And before we get the third team after 10 minutes. So you have these 10 minutes all yours. Let's start.
While the screen just gets pulled up, we'll quickly run you through our solution. The idea that we started with in the larger solution was more around first understanding the two basic pivots of cost and granularity that needs to be balanced to then come up with the entire retail estimate month on month. The first bit that we were trying to understand was the large variety or the diversity that really exists, to understand what really needs to be captured. Now, there are 3 major lenses there. Time is something that can come up as a solution, right, depending on what tech really gets deployed. But the first bit is to understand the market bit, right? Now, from market, there's an urban area in India, there's a rural area, and that infrastructure development, given the country's vast expanse, is very differential, right? And to deploy tech, it's very critical to really understand whether things like, electricity, internet, good speed is actually available all across the country, right? Or does it need to be differentiated across markets? The second bit was about, looking at, let's say, the channel type. While we're talking about, traditional trade, modern trade, and e-commerce, e-commerce is a space where physical stores don't even really exist, right? While on the traditional trade side, there's this entire spectrum where stores can vary from somewhere 20 square feet in size to something around like more than 1,000 square feet. And then there's modern trade that can go up to 15,000 square feet in size, right? So what technology can really cut through all of these different spectrums of diversity? And then the final bit, if you guys could just go to the next slide. And the final bit was especially around, the channel dynamics, as I just spoke about traditional trade, modern trade, and e-com. And then there is the entire category scope, right? Do we talk about just category understanding? Do we look at, specific brands, or do we go right down to every single SKU, the B brands that exist in the market, which are very close lookalikes, right, of a lot of large brands? So how does this entire spectrum get really captured? Which is where what we define from a process standpoint is whether it be the step around universe estimation, whether it really be around design, whether it be around data collection, harmonization of all that data, and then reporting it out. Each of those steps can be used, where technology can get deployed, either, to enhance or augment the existing, let's say, techniques that exist, and in some cases also complement what really exists as of today. So the first bit there, if you could just scroll up to the next slide, please. Okay, while that really gets pulled up, right, the first bit was around, the universe augmentation, right? While there is a really vast retail universe in the country, right? I remember Manish talking about something as large as 10 million plus, right? It's important to understand how can that get captured, and then how can that get refreshed on a very frequent basis, right? Which is where a lot of outside any information can get utilized. There's a lot of technology that today helps us from a geospatial data standpoint, right? And this is where enough information sits around, let's say, light luminosity at night, the road structures that exist, the kind of population density that's there. And all of this can help capture and understand the right representation of the entire country, where one really needs to understand what the universe is, right? And that will help us get the right representative picture. The other end is the actual data collection, even to figure what the universe is, right? And that is where there are these multiple open data sources, web scraping, crowdsourcing that can all go in to help create that larger universe. Like, just imagine there's something like a Just Dial, which gives, enough information, not just about retail, but any kind of store that really exists, right? And all of that can help build that entire universe structure. One quick simple example of some things we've already tested is this screen where we're talking about a country and we are overlaying multiple layers of this geospatial data that helps explain and understand, what are the final key pockets, that one should look at from a representation standpoint, that one needs to focus from an ongoing standpoint to start capturing the right universe changes, the growths, and other things that exist, right? Moving on to the next bit, while we address this from a universe standpoint, there is the other bit, which is from the design and sample standpoint, right? Where do we go to on a regular month-on-month basis, right? To start getting information to talk about, what is really the market share, what is the depth and width of distribution, and the others. The most critical bit here is to understand that today we live in a world which is not what used to happen in India like a decade or two back, right? There is excess data that exists, right? There is all this big data availability that has its own benefits, right? One can have far more larger frequency of, information being available. There can be a lot of, granularity, right? Like, one can go down to a city level and, it's almost like city used to be something that we were thinking of in the past. One can go to like breaks within a Delhi or a Bombay. One can look at, pin code level, ward level information and understand what's really happening. While this is the blessing that big data brings, there is also this key aspect that one needs to think of from how this data is really getting utilized by, the large manufacturers, or for that matter, any manufacturer, right? They are depending on this information to figure their strategy, their ROI, and how they really need to plan. That is where we're talking about the fact that panel is still important. And how can we utilize this panel to start complementing the big data to still ensure that the entire representativeness, the unbiasedness, and any kind of skew can then get removed. So it's more like an and condition. It's not like a replacement, but again, to enhance further, both from a granularity, robustness, representation, and frequency of information that can be made available. Can we move to the next slide, please?
Yeah. So taking up after the designing and the universe estimation part, the next phase is the data collection. There are multiple options available today on how we can collect the data. Currently, there are already some of the technologies we are using to capture each and every depth of the information, from the images of the products to the purchase invoices, images, and even getting every SKU getting counted over there. And with using the new technology, we have the options of implementing the POS devices on the shelf, getting the tablets and stylus where the retailer just need to write on the things which he is providing to the consumer shopper, or with no intervention from the retailer, a video can be captured of the store with through the image recognition to identify what all products are getting provided to the consumer over there. But each of these options has their own different combinations, their preferences, the availability of the granular data, or the timelines which it is going to impact. So we cannot, as we discussed in the design part, we cannot go with the option of either a big data or the sample, and is required. Similarly, a combination of these technologies are also required for collecting the data. For the large and the medium stores where the connectivity, the internet availability is quite high, we can easily look for an option of implementing the POS devices in the tablets. On the other hand, the small stores where the mobile penetration has increased significantly. So in the last 1 year, what we have seen, the retailer, within the retailers itself, the mobile penetration has reached to almost 80%. So just providing an app on the retailer's mobile where they can just insert the SKU information, price of the product, and the image of the purchase bills. This can help us to get the complete volume of the data at one place with best of the accuracy which is possible. This helps us to get the scalability at cutting the data at any granular level we want. The real-time updates can be provided to the users. And yes, the cost limitation over in the long run will be also relatively lower. But while collecting all this digital data, does it mean that everything goes glory? Yeah, there are certain aspects we need to definitely take care of, which is about the data harmonization, because the quality of the data which is getting inserted by the retailers needs to be very careful about. Therefore, some of the machine learning programs definitely needs to build in to take care of that. At the same time, the retailer engagement, because here with the technology, we are a lot more dependent upon what the retailer can provide in this instead of what we want to capture at our end. And hence, we need to definitely derive various retailer engagement programs differently to ensure the success of this technology. Yeah, thanks. Please move on to the next slide. The next part is modern trade. Definitely, traditional trade is the biggest animal of this entire retail trade, but modern trade has its own piece for the big purchases, and it is one of the growing channels in India. We always bank upon the fact that modern trade has the POS data supplied from the retailers. These are the cooperating retailers. It is completely pure and pristine. No estimation. If we have the universe information, the actual sales information, no estimation is required on that front. No error levels. Directly, we can use it for decision making. The only aspect is those chains or stores where the cooperation is not there. For the smaller ones, definitely we can explore the sampling or the similar kind of retailers assortment to be mapped to them to understand their behavior and the estimation process. But for the big retailers, the crowdsourcing of the receipts is a very successful solution, because here we can design what kind of receipts we required, and by putting a appropriate representative sample of these receipts, we can ensure that we are getting the store, the footfall of the stores, we are getting the overall traffic of the stores, which can help us to estimate the sales of those retailers to the best of the knowledge. And at the same time, it will help with the receipts information, we can get the assortment details, that what products are actually getting sold, what are the price promo information, unique information getting sold over there. Moving on to the next point, which is the e-commerce. Though it is currently very small, but we all know it has achieved significant growth in the last 1 year, especially due to COVID. So with COVID, the e-com has made a significant jump, and some of the retailers have become really big. If we can get a cooperation from those retailers, then again, it's a blessing. For rest of the e-commerce, the one of the best option we can explore is the crowdsourcing of both the non-coop and the cooperating retailers. Why we are saying cooperating retailers also? Because this is a sample of the receipts which we will get from the cooperating retailers, and we have the actual POS, universe information of the cooperating retailers. This will help us to derive the projection factor, and this can be used for estimating or the non-coop data from the sample to their universe. And that's how we can reach to the entire e-com universe and get their details. And with receipts, the SK information, the pack price, all these details can easily be achievable. One of the option again available with multiple vendors available in the market is the external partnership. So there are many vendors who are available who capture the stock and the sales information of these retailers, and it can also be explored through the web scraping, where multiple retailers capture their stock and the sales information getting updated on their site regular basis. So using an amalgamation of all these options, a best of the e-com index can be created over here. Moving on, in all the three channels, we talked about capturing the point of sales information. So sales, market share, depth and width of information, these all are directly can be derived. One of the options which we are talking about is that instead of out of stock, let's look at the out of sales information, because that is what going to be the our ask of the R. Why? Because if the sales is not happening, and if we can derive that what is the frequency of the purchase from the past data, and we can figure out that if it's not getting sold for another 2 months, then it means it has gone out of sale and it requires some kind of immediate action, whether being purchased, not purchased, but if it's moving out of sale, it calls for an action. And a modeling can easily be applied on the sales data to derive this fact over here. For all the three channels, there is a certain pilot which we are proposing over here by selecting 1 or 2 cities, and how we can go for the partnership designing and then the data harmonization piece. Thank you. That's all from our side.